it's Bharon with One Chiropractic, and we're back with Dr. Richard Barwell. It's like this perfect little circle where we started to where we are now. But man, it feels like, Doc, it's been a year and a half since you and I have talked, and the explosion of this series it's unbelievable to me. I mean, it just is unbelievable to me, the responses. I forwarded you a good portion of them, but I'm just getting unbelievable comments from people about how this topic is changing their view of the world, as well as in their practices with their patients. And I'll just share one of them. I got from a doc in Iowa, and he was like, I never told you this before, but I've actually lost my confidence and belief since I had an episode with a patient 20 years ago. And he goes, it wasn't until this series that I gained the confidence again in what I was doing, the impact I was making, and the ability to look at patients and say, no, you need to get in here. Don't ask me questions, just get in here and let me adjust you. And that's right. That's what we were after, was giving people that confidence. So let's talk about that today in this session, just kind of where we've come and what we've experienced through this process, being from our perspective. So tell me your thoughts right now of what's been happening.
Well, I'm just so thrilled by the whole thing, and the people that are on there. And I want to tie some of them up. I got to admit, Laura's just started right now with where I am, but I've listened to everyone, including all of my own again, which I go back and I go, oh, I missed that point. Oh, I missed that point. Because there's just so much meat in it. We're sort of skimming over the surface just to try to get people's attention. But the people you're getting on are fantastic. And I know your plans for the other ones that they're going to be coming along. It's a matter of timing in most of it. But here's what I see in all of this. And this starts with the stuff that I'm talking about, and Dan Sullivan's stuff and Bob's stuff. It's absolutely incredible. We get to Ella and her information about how important things like the sense of smell truly is. And it's not about selling the sense of smell. It's about what it does to the brain.
Right.
And how that applies. So my big thing was, I really wanted to stop for a moment and just sort of go back a bit, because we have an issue where there are certain people in the practice that have been, mostly the guys that have been in practice for a long time. They've got their systems down. Mm-hmm. They've got their dialogues down. It's working for them. They've got good, strong practices. They're getting great results. Hats off to them. We know chiropractic does a great job. And some of those people are going to change. The majority of them, especially as you're getting near retirement time, are not going to change. And that's okay. They're still doing a good job. My focus is more about the next generation.
Right.
And it's about saying, listen, there's a whole lot now what we know about the brain and nervous system that we didn't know 20 years ago. This is a 20-year window. That's all that this has opened up. And so getting the information to those guys, because they're seeing the challenges that are going on about vertebral subluxation isn't real and all the rest of this stuff. Well, part of it's right and part of it's not right.
Right.
It's just we needed to look at it differently. And what I really wanted to take and do was sort of say, like, here's what doesn't change with neurologically based chiropractic. What doesn't change is the primary thing, that the goal of chiropractic is to improve neurological function. Yep. The old style was at the nerve root. The new one is at a higher level. We kicked it upstairs. Yep. So it still hasn't changed the basic intent. So just getting upset about the fact that there's something new coming out, you need to stop and go, wait a minute, this hasn't really destroyed it. This is going to build on it. It's still spine-centered, because the spine provides us more neurological access to brain function than anywhere else in the body. So, that's the same. That hasn't changed. Upper cervical areas are extremely important. That hasn't changed. We've all known that.
Right.
It just didn't matter. Sometimes it wasn't just the upper cervical you had to adjust. There was other areas that you had to pay attention to in order to get through that. So that hasn't changed. The wellness impact on chiropractic doesn't change with neurologically based chiropractic. In fact, it gives us a whole lot more grounds to really look at it. Absolutely. So what I wanted to do was take that concept of wellness in chiropractic, which it doesn't really mean much. What is wellness? Everybody used it. And take that and make it peak performance. Mm-hmm. Because if we can get the nervous system working better, then it's sort of like, well, how good can we get this thing?
Right.
You know, where is the peak on this? And that means ongoing care now has justification beyond signs and symptoms relief. So if you're just treating signs and symptoms, you got to stop when those signs and symptoms are gone because you're selling something different.
Right.
So that's why it moves it sort of upstairs. Here's the other thing that I just think is so funny about all of this stuff, and especially with the people we get resistance from. When I ask them, they say, well, you're vertebral subluxation based. It's all about vertebral subluxation. My question's always the same. Tell me, how did the vertebral subluxation get there?
Yeah, yeah.
That's the, you know, it didn't, the vertebral subluxation fairy didn't come along at 4 o'clock in the morning and whack you at C3. You know, it developed for some reason, and they all come down to they know that those magic 3 T's, that it's all about stress. And so that's the point that always pushed me to where I am now, saying, wait a minute, if stress creates it, we need to understand how.
Yep.
Well, when I opened that box, holy smokes, I never realized where it was going to go. But thanks to Dr. Annette Long, who set me on this track, the psychiatrist or psychologist, pardon me, Annette, the psychologist extraordinaire. She's the one that set me on this track to looking at how stress affected the brain. And when that happened, all of a sudden, all the answers started to fall into place. You know, and I'm going to have some fun with this later on. We're going to talk about exactly how our thought processes sort of blocked us into this thing. We now have, you heard Dr. Bob Hoffman talking about from the Master Circle. You got coaching that is neurologically based chiropractic centered coaching. That is incredible. And hats off to Bob, because I remember when we were in England and talking, he heard the message of neurologically based chiropractic, saw how important it was, and changed everything he was doing within the Master Circle. And they call it Masters for a reason. Yeah. There is nobody out there that is better than Bob Hoffman at putting this stuff together in a language that people will understand and move forward. And I loved his talks. I really loved them. Also, something else that we're missing, and we need to do this on the next round, we need to talk to some of the technique masters. Yeah, yeah. Because I've had technique masters that had the courage to do this live time, to hook them up to the Neuro Infinity, and live time, we watch what they're doing, whether it's moving it towards an ideal balance or moving it away from it. And that takes courage. And they did it in front of about 50 to 60 chiropractors in their teaching program. They had the courage to know and the confidence to know that what they were teaching actually works. The only problem is with the technique masters is they were only relying on results to be able to prove their technique. Well, now we can actually show the changes live time when they're doing their technique. That's awesome. I mean, we've also had technique masters that won't talk to me. Yeah, right. Well, you know, and it's a shame because I know their technique is incredible. Yeah. But they're afraid to put it to the test live time. Right. One of those people that put it to the test live time in front of people, we've got Dr. Ted Corin put some stuff in that is blowing me away. Dr. Steve Hoffman does upper cervical work, specific upper cervical, MC2. Yeah. What we saw in that thing was incredible. And I love the techniques that have the power to do this. We've done several techniques, and if they all work, we can just help them work better. Right. Okay. Something that was missed in the DoTERRA essential oils talk was this. We know about the olfactory area of the brain being so important and being left to right and being very, very powerful. What it wasn't covered is there's 2 areas in the brain where stem cells are formed. Okay. Mm-hmm. One of them, stem cells for new neurons. One of them is the olfactory area, and the other one is the hippocampus. And the reason that they're formed in those areas is because those are both really, really important for survival. Mm-hmm. Smell for food or danger, and in the hippocampus for memory. You see how they have to work together? And I actually have videos of stem cells that have been formed in the area, and then they these stem cells form, and they're just little cells, and they say, well, listen, I'm going to be one of those kinds of cells. So I'm in the wrong spot, and I have pictures of them, videos of them literally migrating across the glial cells to get to where they know they need to go to the brain to set up new patterns. Mm-hmm. You talk about innate intelligence?
Yeah, that's incredible.
And it's just, you watch this, and it's just stunning to watch this stuff. So wait a minute, if we're stimulating the olfactory area with senses of smells along with experiences where we've opened up the brain, that means we're going to be generating the development of stem cells. Okay? And if those stem cells are being generated there, then they're going to be generated in the hippocampus so that they can also create new patterns for new memories. If you restrict those, you start to lose your ability to build new memories. You know where that goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
The one thing, and we'll get to it somewhere down the road when Heidi finally gets around to jumping on board, we just got to take her home to New Zealand and nail her feet to the floor.
I'm not sure if Glenn can't do it, we're not going to be able to do it.
Well, maybe this trip at this time of year, in November, she went to Winnipeg in Canada. Holy crap, that's not a good time to go to Winnipeg. Maybe that'll do it.
We'll get her.
But her 20 to 30 minute window of opportunity for new patterns in the brain after an adjustment is a critical factor that we need to continue to work on and develop and get stuff going. Vibrational frequencies, we talked about with the doTERRA and the vibrations of the different scents.
Yep.
It's all about vibration. I don't know if people have seen what I put on my Facebook site, but they now have a picture of a particle of light as a particle and as a wave. The first time in history they've been able to show it as both.
Wow.
And that's the fabric of the universe.
Yeah.
That's the vibrational frequency of the universe. And you can actually see it. You can see the vibrations change from in the rainbow that you see as light, the particle that you see as light. You can actually see the wave, and you can see the difference in the frequency all the way through. It's just stunning. And that's the stuff that we work with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's the subtle substance of nature. Her comment about the millennials and talk about the millennials, I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah.
It's made me stop and go like, maybe I got to stop pointing the finger so much.
Yeah, that's exactly
especially
right.
with my wonderful star. She's just so awesome. So those are just some of the things that I wanted to sort of go back and focus on about where you've gone with this. And this is such a service to the profession that I just hope that more and more of them keep sharing it and we get this word around. And like I said, there's always going to be that 20% that are never, ever, ever going to change. That's okay.
That's exactly right.
I'm not making them wrong. They're doing their job. Now, if they're not surviving down there, if they're not helping the profession down there, then I'm concerned about it. But if they're just doing their thing and they're getting great results and they want to stay that way in the practice, great.
Yeah, and that's a great important point because we never wanted anyone to misunderstand what the intent of this series was. This was not to take on, the foundation of the profession and challenge it. It was to continue, you said it in the very, very first episode with you and I, BJ did this all the time. He changed his technique hundreds of times. Whenever he learned new information, it changed the paradigm in which he operated in the world. And that's all we're trying to do. Our profession has just kind of stopped for whatever reason. And you and I both believe the same way. It's when reimbursement came in and we started focusing on getting paid rather than understanding and telling our story. And so, I get that not everyone's going to like this. Not everyone's going to want to go down this path. But as we know from the law of diffusion of innovation, I only need, anywhere from 15 to 18% of the profession to start going this direction for it to tip. And then the market just takes care of itself. So we're doing that. I mean, our series is growing. I just had a couple web experts look at our conversion rate on the videos and how many people are watching them and continuing. And we're breaking records right now. We have over a 52% click-through rate on videos, like 37, 38, which means people are sticking with the series and they're watching it till its completion over 50% of the time, which most people are happy with about a 20% click-through rate. So we're doing something, Doc. I mean, something's happening here and people are starting to change. So, and that's largely based on those of you watching this, because you've been sharing it. We can, every single day, we have new people joining this conversation through the series, and it's going through. I just got an email today. You know, the association had their board meeting this past Thursday, and they were talking about it, and they as an association are going to push out the series because they want their members to be a part of this conversation as well. So it's happening. You know, the momentum is building and it's going. So I can't thank you enough, Dr. Barwell, because you're the reason this thing started. You know, you're the one that got me and the conversations that we've had over the last couple of years. So you know, we're going to keep pushing this thing through. I am excited about our next session because we've been teasing people for weeks and weeks now on really how to actually quantify a lot of the stuff we're talking about. And that's what we're going to dig in our next session. So I'm going to cut you off now, and we're going to break into the next session and start talking about the neuro infinity and how we can actually document what's happening with the adjustment. So we love you. We appreciate you, everyone. Please continue to share this series. We're making a difference, and you're a big part of that. So we love you. Take care. Bye-bye.